Hey, welcome everybody. Guitar playing is about the chord. Let me tell you a story about the G minor chord. C minor chord. G minor. D7. C minor. G minor. We can say something about every chord that we play, and that should be the way that we practice. So using the G minor chord as an example, and we have the G minor pentatonic just fits like a glove over this. A basic way to practice this is to play the chord, play the pentatonic scale, using phrases that resolve back to that home bass note, G. G note. The next thing you'd want to do is just realize the chords, the notes that are in the chords, they lie right in within that pentatonic scale. For the G minor, G, B flat, D. And they're all over the place. So we can go D, G, B flat. I like to just look at the shape of the actual chord or triad. Or here, G, B flat, and D. And there's a pentatonic scale right within every one of those shapes. Everything, when you play like that, it's drawn back to that chord, the sound of the chord, because you're using that home bass note. I don't just say, oh, I'm just going to run up to the fourth position here and do a couple licks. I'm looking at just the root note to start with. G note right there. If you know where this G note is, and this one, 2 frets up and 2 strings down is the octave. And on the next octave, it'd be 3 frets up, 1, 2, 3, and 2 strings down would be the next octave. I just like looking at it this way. You can use that with any chord to find that root note. Also on that third fret, just like here. And then that triad shape, that G minor chord, is right there. And that's part of a pentatonic scale. But if you look at it as a set of notes to draw back to, that's when your phrases come alive. They say something about the chord. You got the shape right there. G minor. That's the 4th position. But I honestly don't look at it in numbers. I look at it as my starting point, the G note here in the 10th fret of the A string. and then the 2 frets up, 2 strings down, that octave. Then 3 frets up and 2 strings down is the next octave. The same kind of, the way I like to look at it this way. That's the way I learned it, and then over time you just see you see it all at once. It becomes second nature, but you can draw back your phrases to that root note, whether with bends and hammer-ons, pull-offs. You're just bending to a G note. Back to a G note. Walking down, but I like to resolve back to the center of the scale. You don't always have to do that, but it's a great way to sound connected. So that little phrase right there, just learn a few phrases and be able to play them in a few different places on the fretboard that connect to that chord, G minor for these examples, but hammering onto the root note from 3 to 5, then 3 on the D, walking down from 5, 4, 3 on the A string, and then pulling off from 4 to 3, 6, 3. And back to the root. You're going back to that. It really says something about the chord when you play that way. And moving on to the C minor. The C minor chord contains a C note, E flat, G. Another place on the fretboard. And I'm looking at the whole chord here, C minor, but the little triad shape here, E flat, G, C. Up here, G, C, E flat. I'm looking at the root and the shape around the root to create the chord. You can do this with major or minor. We're looking at some minor chords to start with. And there's just one note in that C minor chord that's not in the minor pentatonic, so highlight that note. And that's the E flat note there. You can hear it go back to the G minor chord. Practice this stuff. This is what I missed early on as a beginner into the intermediate state. I played scales and chords, but I had no connection, and that's what I know a lot of you guys are missing. To be a good improviser, to have more fun on the guitar, you have to have that connection. All the solos and the riffs that we know and love are drawn back to the chord, the chords of the song. I'm giving you some structure here. Use your ear. When you're playing, don't try to use tabs. Just use the structure of the scale and create your own style. These root notes and these scales are just structure. The available notes within the scale or the chord going to the 5 chord is this, in this case, it's a dominant D7, using that root note in the 5th fret of the A string. And you want to create movement to these notes that are in the chord. Chromatically walking up to the D, actual root note D, and I'm still got this in keeping in mind the minor pentatonic that's right underneath it. So we're hammering on to it'd be the major third, which is not in the minor pentatonic, from 3 to 4 on the D string, and then 3 on the B string, back to that 4 on the D string, then walking chromatically down from 7, 6, 5 on the G string would be a C note, which makes it a 7th chord of the D. So you're just doing that simple phrase, you highlighted all of the notes in the chord with movement. And then you're back, you can go back to home base, go to that minor pentatonic. You can hear that minor sound in there. I'm certainly not the best guitar player. I'm probably average in the scheme of things, but I play from the heart. I just use some simple structure, try to use some tools like bending and vibrato, hammer-ons and pull-offs, but targeting those select notes in a simple way, and just tie them back to the chord. So important. If you're an intermediate player struggling to improvise, this is the best exercise, just to play a chord, connect it back to that home bass note of each chord, and just play around a scale that fits those all the chords, basically. Thanks so much. Let's talk soon.